with the 2014 National Scrabble Championships. I'm here with Mike Frentz. Mike is one of the top Scrabble players in the world. He is rated over 2,000 and in the top 15 at this current time. Say hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone.
We're waiting for a game between Noah Walton and Kolton Koehler to get started. Kolton is one of the best word game players in the entire world. He's fairly new to Scrabble. He's only been playing seriously for maybe about 2 or 3 years. He's playing Noah Walton. Noah is probably one of the 3 to 5 favorites to win the tournament. He's only 19, right? No, he's 20. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But both of them are from Portland. Both of them have played numerous times. And yeah, it should be a pretty good game. Both of them know each other fairly well. I happen to know both of them, especially Noah, extremely well. So hopefully I can give you some insight as to what they're thinking. Yeah, and hopefully the game will begin shortly. You have any insights, Mike?
Just that, both of them, have exceptional word knowledge. They both know, they've both studied a lot. Noah in particular has a very good holistic sense of strategy. He can see what play, he can. The thing I've been impressed by with him, and this is true of other top players such as you, such as Conrad, is that they can take a play or two on the board and can foresee several moves out the kind of shape that the board is going to take over the course of the game. And being able to see that well in advance and make their plays accordingly is one of the greatest strengths you can have as a Scrabble player.
Yeah, I mean, I expect a dynamic. It obviously depends on the tiles somewhat, but I expect a dynamic such that Kolton is going to try to open the board at the beginning of the game, and Noah's going to try to close the board.
All right.
And we'll see who works out. I think that if Kolton gets his open board, then the game is pretty much even. Maybe Noah has a slight advantage. If Noah gets a closed board, against Kolton in particular, I think that Noah has a pretty sizable advantage. But again, it all depends on the tiles. If the game starts bingo bango, where both players, hit bingos, you can't really close the board very easily.
Yeah, well, the game has started, and unless Noah decides to exchange, this is not going to start bingo bango.
Well, Noah probably is going to start by exchanging.
Yeah, there's no way Eve or I is even remotely worth it, I don't think.
Yeah. EIVU is actually deceptively balanced, but it's just not worth it.
Right. Yeah, and then he has, in fact, traded 6.
Yeah, I would consider that to be pretty standard. You can keep... No, you really can't. I was going to say you could keep the V if you want. You could even keep, if there was another consonant, you could keep, EITV or things like that, but not with the V alone.
Kolton looking at EEI-MSTX.
Okay.
Which is not...
Go ahead, sorry.
So my first instinct is doesn't appear to be a way, unless I'm missing something, which is entirely possible, to... And I just realized I have my board set up wrong. Give me a moment here.
It's fine. I think your board's set up fine.
Except for the part where this is a double word instead of a double letter.
That would be good. So Kolton has Sex Time on his rack. There's actually a game called Phonies that a lot of the younger players play, where they just try to make up kind of raunchy-ish words.
Yeah, that would be as obvious an opening play as there is in that game.
There is sort of a nerdy element to some of Scrabble sometimes, and I'll admit it. We're not as nerdy as you might think, though. A lot of us actually do have very conventional lives. Some of us have girlfriends, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
we're not all nerds, at least not all of the time. That being said, I am sort of.
I can be when I want to be. So what do you play here? Is EX? What sort of is
Yeah.
this?
I mean, ideally you'd want to make something that hits ideally you'd want to hit the X on a double letter.
Yeah, I don't
It's not possible.
think that's possible here.
You can play mix and kind of get away with it. At least you have the T hook, but
Right.
I think that EIMST is strong enough that it's just not worth it to, it's so much stronger than EEST is. And mix allows so many more parallels that
Okay.
in which case you'll never, have a really hard time bingoing. You're just much better just taking EX.
Wow.
The problem with EX positionally is that if your opponent front hooks it, you generally might have a problem.
Right, and Kolton has, you said he wanted an open board, and mixes certainly provides that, but possibly at too high a price.
Because of exactly what I said to start the game. Kolton wants an open board. He's willing to make some otherwise questionable plays to do so. That being said, Noah has... So, let's see. Sorry. Check a little bit. And Noah has AEFIPRZ. Really a plethora of options. I actually expect to see... Oh, and as we see, I'm expecting premixes to come down pretty shortly.
Ooh.
Yep. You can actually even think about remixes there and set up the case P if you really want, but that's kind of ambitious. Probably not worth it in this particular situation.
And you're still saving fizz overlapping the ES of mixes for next turn.
Kolton has a pretty big rack, though. He has AERTTW blank. Some pretty easy bingos. To the S is pretty obvious, I think. I fully expect Kolton to find something here. Kolton plays a Twitter, which is actually really nice. Makes the blank a T, which is not at all obvious when two T's are already in your rack. Wouldn't surprise me that's the... Well, I guess there's Wardius. There's a few other bingos that go there. But by duplicating T's, you make it less likely that your opponent's going to bingo.
Okay.
There are other bingos obviously available. Swatters. Wardius. Water jet. But, yeah. Anyway, Kolton plays that. Noah has AAFINTZ. And let's see. They're moving pretty fast here. Noah still has fizz in multiple spots. He also has, plays that get rid of his. He also has plays that get rid of the A, such as Czar. And he also has Fritz.
Yeah, Fritz is what I saw. There's doesn't look like there's any really good plays that clear both the F and an A that score anything. So I think Fritz has to be worth it here.
Yeah, and there's lots of, there's Z options, but there are worse things that I could go for.
And indeed, that is what he has done.
Kolton has AEEFLRT, and I fully accept him to bingo with deflates, which not a surprise. Might seem a little bit complicated for those at home, but at this level, I would say that that's pretty standard. Yeah. So Kolton's up by almost 100. He's up by 99 at this point. And Noah has AACENRV. And again, we said it at the beginning of the game that there was this battle for board shape and board openness, and Kolton won this battle.
He's got the open board and the 100-point lead. Which...
Yeah, and Noah's fine. Noah at this score is okay with it because he has to. He needs an open board. Reflate's also blocked Canvasser, which would have been very useful to know at this point. I'm pretty sure that Noah doesn't have a bingo.
Yeah, I'm not seeing one.
Yeah, you definitely want to get rid of the V, for sure. Any play that Noah considers is going to do that.
Unfortunately, that means he has to leave the Z spot down at the bottom open, but that might not be a bad thing because
It's a pretty bad thing when you're behind, especially behind by over a bingo. You don't do throwing spots like that if you can at all help it. It's really, it really doesn't create a good dynamic if you're scoring. If you're bingoing and your opponent scores 40 every turn, it means you have to bingo like 3 times. Because if you're trading 40 for 75 and you're down 100, that means that you're only gaining 35 points. So you have to do that 3 times. That's never fun.
Right.
Noah plays Ava, trying to block the Z in part. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure that Noah does not want to leave that Z open. It doesn't have the greatest leave ever, but kind of importantly, it opens the bottom left. Noah does need an open board at this point, so that makes sense. He needs an S lane. The A at 13J is not exactly desirable, but you can't get everything.
Kolton is on DEEGRSY.
Yep.
Could he get greedy here and play greedy underlapping, in the 14J spot?
That's certainly an option. He can also play Gyred in the same spot.
Oh, okay, yeah, Gyred is infinitely safer.
Not necessarily infinitely safer, actually. The Y at 14-0 is actually not really that dangerous. It's pretty hard to underlap it for a lot. It's pretty hard to play XXYX and score a lot, unless you have an S, which Kolton has, and Noah certainly might not. And yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty safe. So it's actually not. And Gyred has some overlaps that make it not ridiculously safe. So it's actually pretty close. I'm actually fine with either of those. Kolton could also play Zags. That would be really aggressive, but that certainly leads to the kind of game Kolton wants, even more than it already does. Also could make some more fishy-ish plays.
Right, he could do perhaps U into the W of a Twitter. Although the D, I don't like having the D and the G together. They don't work that well together.
Agreed. You could play I'd, paralleling reflates on the left side over here.
Alright. That's
pretty close. This is one of those positions that people take a really long time at. Rightly or wrongly, it's kind of personal preference. I take forever in these positions. A lot of people just want to get them over with. And I think there's something to be said for that, but I also think there's something to be said for, because it's not that big a difference, but if you want to actually make every play correctly, then you have to take a long time on these positions.
Well, Kolton did in fact play greedy, and it looks like his greed might come back to hurt him a little bit here.
So Noah's at least getting back in the game. ACEL and RU. Multiple things to choose from, again. Nothing really stands out. I guess Luke Harn stands out. Age. He also has other bingos. There's 3 bingos in this rack. Luke Harn is the obscure one, but there are 2 much more common ones. I'll leave that as an exercise to the reader, but they're both fairly common words. There's also Cerulean. But yeah, I can't imagine anything playing other than the Karn. And indeed, that's what happens. Kolton is now at 31. He has A, B, E, G, and S, T. And I don't see anything immediately. Potential for 7-letter words with this rack. The only problem tiles are the B and the G. And the G isn't really that much of a problem because it's accompanied by an N. And that makes the G a much stronger tile.
And I'm taking a look. I don't see any 8. That doesn't necessarily mean they're not there because...
Yeah. people usually take a long time in these sorts of positions because they don't want to, when you miss a bingo, it's a huge mistake. It's easily potentially game costing.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, when you do take a long time and then play something, you play 2 tiles for 20 points, it generally sends alarm bells going through the roof for your opponent. In this case, it doesn't really even matter because there's nothing Noah could possibly do to block this board at this point. This board is absurdly open. There's no chance of there being a closed board. But in other situations, it definitely would be a factor, that the fact that you're projecting such a strong rack. And I think anything that Kolton does here, assuming there's no bingo, is going to project strength.
Right. If he's not going to bingo, options that come to mind would be bays in the bottom right corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because, frankly, an S isn't that useful on this board. There are no hooks for it.
It kind of is still. I wouldn't say it's super duper useful, but it's still an S. At the end of the day, an S is a really good tile.
Yeah, right.
Even without hooks, it's still, even if the English language existed so that just that plurals did not exist, the S would still be significantly better than any other tile except for the blank and maybe the Z.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. There are so many words with S's in them that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But anyway.
Well, if you're going to go that route, maybe a buy in that spot.
Maybe. Bag is a fishing play.
Through the E of either reflates or premixes, depending on which way you want to spin the board.
To me, preferably through the E and reflates, and the reason for that is because if you hit a bingo, you want to do stuff. You want to actually try to gain some semblance of control of the board, and the best way to do that by far is to play bag, putting the G here, and then bingo from J1 all the way down, and really, really limiting all of the reflates options. And then at least there's the possibility of closing the board. That being said, that's definitely not Kolton's modus operandi. So I'm not sure he's going to do that, and I'm not sure he'll be able to close the board anyway.
That is, in fact, what he did. He played bag.
Okay.
7G.
I definitely approve. The question is he willing to sacrifice points on the next turn to block if you hit something? Noah has junk. He has ABPIIOU. He almost has Alguia through the Y.
Too many eyes.
Yeah, well, he needs another U. But yeah, not pretty. I really see only one option. I think Noah's going to play this very, very quickly. In fact, Noah's already played. And he plays Boogie. A very common Scrabble word. Shows up all the time. Really bad tiles otherwise. Yeah, not much else to say on that wreck. Kolton has AEKNOST. I expect him also. Well, in this case, you have KO for 48, and most people play that rather immediately. But you should at least look for bingos here. Doesn't mean you're going to find one, but the rack is definitely good enough that it's worth looking for options. That being said, I don't see one.
Yeah.
There's almost a few things, but yeah, Kolton's already played. I'm just going to assume he played KO.
He did.
Yep. Noah's going to hate me calling him Nigel. AHINNPY, and he's down 73. Yeah.
Hard to believe we're only halfway through this game.
Yeah, I think he's not even close to over. That being said, there's two different types of closed boards, and Noah actually has to watch out for the more obscure type of closed board. And that's the closed board where there are so many words have expanded from the board so much that there's actually no lines left, just because all of the quadrants have been taken. That almost never happens. But in this situation, it's actually a problem.
All of the bingo lines are being taken up by people's bingos.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, at some point, the top right is going to be taken. Somebody's going to play a bingo up there, and at some point, this PRE and premixes is going to be taken, and we're going to be we're just out of lines. We just ran out of space on the board. Like I said, this is something that almost never, ever, ever happens, but here's one of the rare opportunities where it actually might.
So what do you do here? There's various plays that on the end column scoring points, but making it really easy for Kolton to take out the triple and potentially start the process of playing into the top right corner and forcing everything into a narrow space.
I mean, this sucks, because not only that, but Kolton played big the turn before last. I can't possibly imagine a world where Kolton doesn't have, at the minimum after KO, I don't know, ERNT at the very worst. Much more likely something like EINS or EDNS.
Mm-hmm.
Or something very bingo-y on a board with lots of lines. It's really not a good look. I would tend towards HYP.
I was looking at that.
Not happily. It's not very likely that Kolton is going to have some huge scoring play on row O. There's almost no chance he kept a high point tile on his rack. I'm not in love with the play, because even if when he draws a high point tile and he can't bingo, he can just use it.
Right.
But Noah has to bingo like now, or like really, really soon. He can't like wait and tinker around. Like he needs to bingo really fast, and he needs to make a play that indicates that too. He can play stuff like Penny and Hinny and try to hit the blank or something, but AINN isn't the best leave ever, obviously. But, I mean, it does have a decent amount of bingo potential as opposed to any other play in its position, which basically doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like Noah's only down a bingo. It's really a lot worse than that.
Well, he has in fact played Hinny.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Unfortunately, this is not going to work out in his favor, it looks like.
Well, Kolton probably has a bingo, right? Yeah, that's not surprised. No one should be surprised by that. I'm sure Noah is not even remotely surprised here. Kolton plays routines and almost lost it. I might actually not do that.
You play routines because it cuts off more of the board? Well, no, it doesn't really. I mean, it opens more lines. They're tough lines to hit, granted.
I mean, you can even consider playing routines, the other routines. Well, no, that's a little bit crazy. But
well,
like,
play Snoutier if you're going to do that.
No, like the only problem with this is really that you're keeping the left lane open to the R, and it has to be blocked. Like you're gonna have to block it eventually, but it's not that hard to do that. There's an H out there, you can parallel over here, so I guess it's fine. I mean, yeah, routines is going to hit. I guess this is fine. I didn't think about this at first. I probably just overthought the position a little bit. This is fine. Noah now needs 2 bingos. He's not happy, and he's not even close to 1 right now. ADEIIOP. I know he's probably pretty annoyed at this point. This is not the kind of board he wanted. This is not the kind of game he wanted. And he's not drawing well enough to make up for it.
Right.
There's not even really any good scoring options. I don't even see. Do you see anything that like stands out as like a good scoring option?
Not really. And in these positions, you have to be optimistic when you're behind and pessimistic when you're ahead. So Noah is thinking in terms of what has to go right in order for me to win this game.
Absolutely.
Kolton is thinking in terms of what could go wrong in order for me to lose this game.
This position sucks. So not only is that a problem, the problem is the pool. The pool has a blank in it. That's good. It has two S's in it. That's good. Has one R and one T and two N's, and that's not good.
It also doesn't have that many vowels left.
It has two E's, yeah. It has two E's, two A's, and two I's. Noah would like there to be more of those. And it has a Q, a V, a W, a J, and a J in it, all of which are disastrously bad for somebody who's behind. Those are very good scoring tiles. They do very well for making 30-point plays. No one needs Kolton to have bad racks and for him to not get 30-point plays. And he can't, and he's going to be hamstrung. He has no use for 30-point plays. A play like QI over here, paralleling Henny for like 37, for example, that's not good for Noah. That's wonderful for Kolton.
Mm-hmm.
Kolton would be pleased as heck to make a play like QI for 37. Noah's just going to be like QI for 37. What use is this?
Well, so he's taken out the spot.
Yeah,
he's played toy,
which is actually pretty reasonable. There's nothing better to do, really. May as well try to do something like that.
Yeah,
and Kolton
if he hits a bingo now, then he's in good shape and he'll get a chance.
Well, maybe. So Kolton has both S's here. He needs to maximize that. He can really use that if he can do something with it.
He also has no vowels, so I don't think it's going to be happening this turn.
Well, if this is one of those positions where if you can play through, you probably should. If you can play through like at all, you really need to think about it. And actually, I would actually think about playing through this rack. As sad as that, as bad as this rack is.
With what, Josh through the O of Boogie?
Maybe Sook. I think Sook is reasonable. Sook really inhibits the Boogie lane, which is not irrelevant. It gets rid of the Q, which could potentially be a problem. There's no QI spots anymore, really.
Mm-hmm.
The J, when it draws a vowel, has great scoring potential on this board. There's also short plays like JAN that sets up the case. I guess it's not a case D, but it's a useful D. There aren't that many consonants in the pool. There's C, D, D, L, L, M, N, N. There's 11 consonants in the pool. There's 14 vowels, and there's a blank. And even some of the consonants, if he draws consonant, are not that bad. You can definitely, if you play Sook and he doesn't bingo, you can definitely spend the next play and block. If you draw two consonants, if they're two decent consonants. So if he plays Sook and then he draws, let's say, the W and plays Jews or something like that, just as a possible scenario, or JE something down here, like that's perfectly okay. Whereas, as we said, the problem was if he exchanges here and then Noah bingos without the blank, it's a problem. It's not so much of a problem if Noah. It's not as much of a problem if Noah gets, if he plays Sook.
Well, he played DJIN up top.
Okay, that's alright, I guess. Same sort of theme. I think that the J does a lot better in future scoring options than the Q does. But it's the same sort of theme. It'll probably end up working out. We'll see, I guess.
And Noah continues to draw badly here.
Yeah, it looks like it. Not a lot of options. at all. um,
Where's an open sea when we need it?
I mean, he has options to fish, and he definitely should fish. Like, I expect that he's going to play Thai.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the right theme. It fishes both. It hits both lines fairly often, and there's not really many other options.
It does inhibit the low scoring line through the blank T of a Twitter, but that
At
probably
some
isn't
point,
relevant.
yeah. At some point, you're right, but at some point, you can't get rid of. You have to save the element D with this pool, and you can't possibly score any other way. So I would be surprised if he does anything else, and he doesn't. And Kolton does draw two consonants, which does make this a little bit interesting. Although he is depriving Noah of consonants at the same time. So let's see. Not even two particularly good consonants.
Right.
The H is useful. The S's are extremely useful. The Q is starting to become a problem. The only problem with the thing with the Q at this score, and the reason why I wanted to play Suk last turn, is you can exchange the Q. You can always exchange the Q. The problem is that when you have a lead that's over a bingo at this case, really the bad scenario is you exchange the Q and you get it back.
Right. You just want it out of the pool and no longer a factor.
Right, and you're getting troll points out of it. I still might play Suk here. I would have much preferred it playing it last turn, but I would probably still play it.
Yeah. The problem with this, given that there's 15 tiles left in the bag, if you play Suk, Noah bingos, now you can't exchange. There will only be 6 in the bag.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think you'll need to exchange that often. That's the thing. Like, worst case scenario, I guess, is Noah bingos to the R, and then you have to. Yeah, then you're in a lot of trouble, actually. Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's a problem. If Noah bingos through anything else, if he bingos to the L, for instance, then you can just make a blocking play, even with two consonant draw. But when he bingos to the R, that's not an option anymore. Yeah. There's also some equity in the other reason why exchanging might actually be better now that I look at this a little bit more. If Noah has the blank in bingos, you're fine. You don't have any issues at all, because then you can just play through like this O over here, and then you can set up your S and do all sorts of stuff. You can have the case S's, and with those case S's, you can do a lot. And in addition, you have options. I would keep the H as well. You have this H for here. You have an A draw gives you 8-ish, which scores pretty well. This H goes here. The H is actually a really good tile. I would actually keep it.
Kolton has opted to play Rev through the E of premixes, which I did not see as an option, and I'm not entirely certain I understand.
Well, okay, let me start first of all. I'm not in love with this play. That being said, the biggest threat by far is the R, and the second biggest threat on this board is the E, so it does block. And there are options.
No. Through the E of premixes, not the E of reflate.
Oh.
I'm with you. I'm struggling to understand his logic here. I'm sure he has a reason for doing this play. I am not seeing it. I will be honest here.
I'll be agreed. Sometimes that just happens. Everybody has reasons, and I'm sure if you ask Kolton, there is a reason. But that's not a play I would make. Right. And it's definitely unconventional. That being said, it scores points. I understand that. Is there anything that you can... I don't really see anything you can draw necessarily. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe he thinks the Q is a scoring tile. I don't know. You'll have to ask Cole.
And meanwhile, Noah, it looks like he's going to bingo, but not for much. He drew A-A-D-E-I-L-T.
Okay.
So I see lariated. I don't
Yeah,
think there's anything else.
I highly doubt it.
And that is indeed what he has played. And Kolton drew about the best two tiles he could have. Well, okay, not quite the best, but two of the better tiles he could have drawn.
Well, I would want an A if I were him, but
Well, he got the U.
oh no, he blocked Apish. Never mind. So what does he have here? He has Sooks. He's up against a flank in his range, so he needs to create. Well, he has quotes. That's pretty big.
Yeah, that
Pretty
should
cool.
score enough to outrun
Things, yeah.
a majority of Noah's bingos, and I can't imagine he wouldn't play. And it's not worth keeping the second S here.
Not even close. Even if you could play it, even if the S scored 0, you should play it. That's how lopsided it is. It's actually worth thinking about other plays here. Even though quotes looks really, really obvious, it's actually worth thinking about a play like SUQS, hooking Larry did. I know it looks crazy, but it doesn't score that much less. It scores 40 instead of 45. It keeps a vowel on your rack, which guarantees that you have something playable. At the very least, you have the H that scores 30 in 2 spots. It blocks a decent number of bingos. It blocks F bingos, it blocks L bingos. So that means that Kolton has to bingo, or Noah has to bingo probably to line N, which is going to leave a re-overlap, which is going to score a lot. It's actually worth thinking about, even though it loses 2 S's and even though it scores less points. Not a conventional line, but certainly a line that is worth considering. So I don't think this is automatic at all.
Speaking of unconventional, Kolton has played Squoosh, Squoosh, through the O of Boogie.
I am not a fan.
Yeah, emptying the bag, taking a 86-point lead.
Not a fan. You have to leave the bag. You have to leave a tile in the bag here.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah, we cannot see the clock, so we don't know if Kolton is under some kind of time pressure.
They played this game pretty fast. It's 12:34. It's 3:34 their time. They started at 3:02 or 3:03. They're only 30 minutes in this game. I can't imagine Noah's played this game in 7 minutes.
Right. And it looks like Noah drew the blank, but he also drew all the vowels in the pool. He drew DEIOOO blank.
Yeah, not gonna get there.
Not quite.
This almost turned. I mean, this is one of those games that almost turned into a disaster, though. It's very plausible. If this O were anything else, except the A, literally, then I think Noah would have won the game. Yeah, because every other tile bingos. The C bingos, the L bingos, the M bingos, the N bingos, and the N and the W bingos.
Firewood. Okay.
And woodiest, yeah. Yeah, this S line is in Squish is a big problem.
Right.
With the pool. So yeah, I think it's very possible that Kolton maybe miscounted the number of tiles in the pool. That's certainly something that can happen, especially under a lot of pressure, especially on table 1, where Noah is much more used to high pressure games than Kolton is. Kolton has, to my knowledge, never been doing this well at a big tournament before. He's finished like 3rd and 4th at some regionals, in a pretty strong field, but nothing is quite like nationals in terms of pressure. And
Noah's just playing out the string. He plays OOH.
Yeah, and this game's over. I'm gonna guess that a lot of times people don't put the same amount of energy. Noah generally does, actually. It wouldn't surprise me if he actually thought about this endgame a little bit. But yeah, Kolton, yeah.
Yeah, any legal play and possibly any illegal play wins.
I think any illegal play also wins.
I
I have blown games like this before, though.
right.
Almost everybody has at one point in their life.
Let's see.
I'm expecting a lawman, maybe.
Lawman or one underneath lariated.
Lawn is fine too. Yeah, something like that.
31 minus 16 is 15. One is slightly better, I think.
Yeah.
Unless it gives Noah something back, which it might.
Well, no, he has to block Foodie, and it blocks Foodie on top of that. I mean,
Okay.
no diodes to go out. You might not even have to go out. I'm not even sure. That's the one issue that I haven't quite accounted for yet. But yeah, it's pretty hard to put the Scrabble is a very, very tiring game. It's very hard to put the same amount of effort into these sorts of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But it is important. The last 3 or 4 tournaments have been decided by tiebreaker, and the tiebreaker is spread, which is essentially the number of points that you win games like this by. So it definitely is important. Yeah. CWM is also possible. Scores 20 as opposed to it scores slightly less, but it actually it prevents Noah from slow playing at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Because Noah, then you have an outplay. If you have 2 outplays, Noah has to go out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
3 outplays actually, Null and Anil.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Noah has any good slow playing options anyway.
No, he's played 1.
Noah's going to play Diode, I'm guessing. I think Noah might be able to play Wayne and maybe get a few more out of it. Let's see. Wayne is 21. 14 plus.
16 for Kolton. Colm, C-O-L-M.
All right. Yeah, it's not worth it. Never mind. He's just going to play out.
Probably with Devoid.
Does that score more than Diodes? 5, 7, 21. It scores the same as Diodes. So one of those two. Sorry, water. So yeah, we're just waiting for the formality here. Looking back, actually it was played pretty well. Kolton opened the board with mixes, which is a little bit unconventional, but certainly worked out for him, and certainly isn't a bad, given the dynamics between Noah and Kolton, certainly not a bad option. And everything else from both sides really were mostly pretty standard, outside of the end game where Kolton made some kind of unusual plays, but they worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Not much really Noah could have done here. I actually don't have a problem with really anything that he did, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty well played, as opposed to,
All right, so it looks like that will move Kolton either into or very close to the lead in the tournament after 12 games out of 31.
Okay. You're going to have to tell them that. I don't have that feed up, so I don't know what the standings are. Actually, let's go pull that. You want to pull that up, for the entire stream?
Yeah.
You know how to do that?
Let me get to that.
Okay.